You can be super strong in SQL, you can be super strong in Python, you can be super strong in Tableau, and still not getting any job, and also still not adding any value to a real business. And the simple reason is that in today's job market, what you really need is develop some extra knowledge in a specific domain, which is referred to as domain knowledge. And so in this video, I will show you how I use domain knowledge in my work as a data analytics lead with over 7 years of experience in companies like Deloitte and AWS. I will show you real-world calculations and scenarios that I actually work in the job so that you can really understand how to impact a real business. I'm also going to cover different domains that are very common in most businesses so that you have a holistic view of business metrics all in one video. And the promise that I have for you by the end of this video is that you will get a practical understanding of what data analysts are working on a day-to-day basis in a real workplace. And obviously you can apply this knowledge to get a job in the first place in the field of data analytics, and obviously to succeed in that specific role. And obviously this is knowledge that I see currently missing in most online resources available for data analytics, and that's also something that I'm trying to tackle here. And so if any of this sounds interesting, make sure to stick with me in this video. And by the way, if you want me to help you to land a job in data analytics, working together on a one-on-one basis for 6 weeks until you land a job, then make sure to check my Analytics and Automation Academy at the link in video description. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, so for this video, I created a bit of a mind map to create a bit of a structure because we're going to cover quite a few concepts today. And the first thing that I want to show you is basically trying to understand, why are we even talking about business metrics and domain knowledge? Why is that important? And I think the simple way for me to show you this is that business metrics is essentially the link between your analytical work, so everything that data analysts, data scientists do, and the business goals. And so we're talking here on the right hand side about stakeholders and departments, directors, and potential clients of your analytical work. And I think this sentence here also summarizes it pretty well. So without understanding what the metrics represent, an analyst may produce insights that are mathematically correct, but meaningless or misleading in a business context. So hopefully this gives you a reason why we're talking about domain knowledge, why that is essential, and also why we should understand and learn about business metrics. Also, to give you a bit more context on business metrics, I think it's important to understand why business metrics are used in a company. There are many reasons. So the first one is a data-driven decision, because by using business metrics, a company replaces gut feelings with objective data. Also, performance tracking, because business metrics show if the company is hitting strategic goals. Also, to identify problems, because if we use business metrics, again, we can see early warning sign for issues before they actually become, a bit more dangerous. Benchmarking as well, so we can compare performance to industry or past results. And also accountability, so we can set clear targets for teams, so also for individuals. And now to go super practical with this video and give you real practical examples, what I've done is a bit of a mind map of 4 business areas that I consider super important, that are common in most organizations and companies out there. And so the knowledge that you're going to gain in this video can be applicable to pretty much all companies that you can think of, which makes it to me super valuable. And so if I scroll to the left, the first set of business metrics that I want to cover with you is financial metrics. So financial metrics, when we talk about financial metrics, you might be familiar with this already, but these are metrics that usually you see in financial statements. And so you may know that in a company, you may have the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. But also before appearing in these financial statements, these should be calculated by a finance analyst or a data analyst in a company. Why we're even talking about financial metrics? Because obviously they allow us to inform business decisions. They can help a company to attract investors, obviously, getting investment, getting money from the outside, manage risk as well, and also sustain long-term growth. So different reasons why financial metrics are super important in a business. And so if we start from a very basic one, for financial metrics, you are probably familiar with the concept of revenue, which is, one of the key performance indicator, one of the key finance metric. And a simple formula for revenue might be the price of a product times the quantity sold. And so for you, in order to calculate revenue and calculate this number, how do you do this? Well, if you work with company data, and so you're probably kind of a finance analyst that is outside of the company, you may see this information that is publicly available for some of the companies. So you can use financial statements, public platforms, company data. Or if you work as a finance analyst within the company, then you may want to use maybe an accounting software or the finance software used by the specific company. And so what you might see here is a simple example. You have year 2023 and we got the revenue, and year 2024 and we got the revenue. So something is that we can do already with these finance metrics is, for example, calculating the percentage change year over year. And so simple formula here, revenue for this period minus revenue of the last period over the revenue of the last period times 100. So we do the percentage. And if we plug in the numbers, we can see that there has been a decrease of the revenue by 2.8%. So simple, straightforward way to already understand, how to use the first straightforward finance metric. Obviously, you have to be careful here because, there is no one single formula for revenue. That really depends on the company and also the type of business. And again, understanding that specific business will make you pretty strong as a data analyst. Why? Because, for example, what I show you here, price times quantity sold, might be a good formula, for example, for an e-commerce business where, there is quantity of items sold, each item for a specific price. But, for example, there are some subscription models like, how you pay for Spotify. You don't really have a price per quantity. You have a membership that you keep paying. And so if that is the case, if that is a sort of business that you're working with, for example, Spotify, then it probably makes more sense to understand concepts like ARR and MRR, which stands for annual recurring revenue and monthly recurring revenue. Why? Because you actually want to calculate what's the total amount of subscription revenue that you're getting each month or each year. So a bit of a caveat here that I talk about revenue in simple terms, but it can get more complicated with it. And that's exactly how a data analyst or a finance analyst can stand out within an organization. Now, let's move on to another finance metrics that you might have seen it already. We are talking here about gross margin and operating margin. So again, here we can start with formulas, like for example, the operating income, gross profit minus operating expenses. And then we also have the operating margin, operating income over revenue times 100. But I think in this case, it's way easier to use some real numbers, some practical examples here to calculate this finance metric. So we have this company called Bakemaster, and we have data for revenue. We have data for the cost of goods sold and also the operating expenses. And so if we know about these metrics, then first thing that we can do is calculate the gross profit. That could be a core KPI that the finance team want to track. And gross profit measure exactly how much money the company keeps after covering direct production cost. And that's simple formula, and simple result would be 600K in this case. Now, you may want to also calculate the gross margin, which is simply the gross profit that we just calculated over the revenue. And in our case, we get 60%. And we can go a step further and calculating the operating income. Operating income, again, we take the gross profit that we calculated before, and we deduce all the operating expenses. Operating expenses, you can think of things like salaries, rent, marketing, and also depreciation. That's the final number that we get. And then if we want to calculate the operating margin, again, we use this formula here and we get 25%. What is this 25%? This basically shows how efficiently the company turns revenue into operating profit before financing and taxes. And so here we're going a bit more technical with these terminologies, but again, this is for me to show you what kind of knowledge this person should gain and how this person can actually bring value into the company. Now, let's move on to the next one, which is an interesting one. And here we are talking about cash burn, which is again a common finance metrics that I've seen by working with finance teams over the years. And I think for this concept, this is connected to the runway concept. I think a simple metaphor to explain this, you can think of your cash balance as a tank of fuel. Your burn rate is how fast you're burning that fuel. Your runway is how many miles you can drive before the tank is empty. So I think that's a pretty clear explanation there. And so again, here we need to start with some sort of formulas. So we have the net burn that, again, depending on how the team thinks about net burn, can be calculated in a couple of ways. And also we have the runway, which is a bit more straightforward, which is current cash balance over the monthly net burn rate. Again, I think to make these things a bit more clear, we can take an example with some numbers. So here we have Flow Inc. and we have the cash balance on April 1st and also on June 30th. we also have the revenue for the quarter and the total operating expenses for the quarter. And so what you see here is basically we are calculating the net burn. So we have the cash balance on April, right, which is 1 million, and then the next one is 700,000. And so basically we see that we burn 300,000 of cash over the period of 3 months, and so that means 100,000 per month. Also, we are just calculating the monthly revenue and the monthly expenses, which are 50k and 150k. And so basically, even with this method, we have a net burn of 100,000 per month. So these are simply two methods to calculate the net burn. What is important for you here is also understanding that, as I'm showing you here, you have different methods to calculate the same net burn and financial business metric. And what will make you stand out is actually understanding why you use a specific logic, basically showing your rationale, because maybe a method can be applicable to one company, but not to the other. And then if we go to the next part of the calculation here, if we want to calculate the runway, we are basically starting with the 700,000, which is the current cash balance. We are saying that every single month we burn 100,000. And so basically we have 7 months left before running out of the fuel of the tank, as we said before. Obviously, unless there is no more money that is coming into the business and we just assume the current cash balance. Okay, and then next we can go to another famous financial term and financial metrics, which is the EBITDA. So EBITDA stands for earning before interest, before taxes, before depreciation, and before amortization. And this EBITDA is pretty important because it basically shows how much profit a company core operations can generate before considering things like financing costs, taxes, and non-cash accounted charges. Here again, we have a few methods to calculate the EBITDA. So starting from the net income, and so basically adding all the pieces into it. Or maybe you can start from the EBIT. Maybe you already have this figure and you just want to add depreciation and amortization. Hopefully all of these elements in the formula should be clear in a company. And so here it's just a matter of like plugging in those numbers to get into the final figure. So in the Apple example, we can get all of this figure from the income statement. So like revenue, net income, interest, tax, and depreciation. And also from the cash flow statement, we can get the operating cash flow and the capital expenditure. We can also get the revenue of the previous year from previous year income statement. And so if we plug in all of these numbers, basically to calculate the EBITDA, so we just take the numbers that we care about and we plug them in the formula, and that will be the final EBITDA that we find. So hopefully this gave you a bit of a understanding of finance metrics that are important in a business, some technical terms, and just give you a glimpse of what you can work on if you are a finance analyst or simply a data analyst working with the finance team. Now, the other department that I want to cover with you is sales. And here we're going to obviously talk about sales metrics. So first of all, let's understand why sales metrics are important, why it's important for you to get domain knowledge in sales in case you're interested in this area. So sales metrics show how well a company is turning opportunities into revenue and whether growth targets are being met. And so here we have a product or a service, how well we are selling it into our clients, and are we meeting the goals that we set for the company, for the sales team. And so here, just to give you a glimpse of metrics that you can work on in the realm of sales, you can have something that is called pipeline coverage ratio. So this basically answers the question, do we have enough potential deals in our pipeline to hit our revenue goal? And so here the formula can be, we first calculate the total value of our sales pipeline. So, all the basically deals that we are kind of trying to cover and trying to close over the sales quota, which is simply our target for sales or revenue. And so, as I was saying, total value of sales pipeline is the sum of the potential revenue from all opportunities currently being worked on by the sales team. So here you can imagine that when the sales team is trying to close deals, they already put a sort of a revenue figure that they estimate closing with that client. So that's precisely what we are talking about here. And the sales quota is the specific revenue goal for a given period. It can be for a quarter, it can be for a year. Obviously, that is decided by the management, by the whole company overall. We set the target and we try to hit the target every for a given period. Then we can move on to the win rate, which is another interesting sales metric. The win rate is simply the number of deals that we are winning over the total number of closed deals. So if you think about all the deals that we work on in a company, company that the sales is working on. Obviously, there are some deals that we're going to win. So we, make the deal with the client. And usually in sales terms, these opportunities are flagged as closed won. But unfortunately, there are some deals that the sales team is not going to be able to win. And so in case those deals are lost, they will be flagged as closed lost. And so basically the win rate is how many deals you are winning over the total amount of deals that we are closing, either closed won or either closed lost. And by the way, all of these figures, all of this data is tracked in a CRM tool. And the most popular CRM tool that is used by so many big companies and enterprises around the world is what I put here, Salesforce. So that's exactly kind of the system that the sales team is using to track everything that is related to sales that is happening, like the number of calls that they're having, the amount of the deal that they're closing, the amount of deal that is lost, and why maybe that deal is lost, and so on. So again, just to give you a bit of a practical example here, we may have this Cloud Tech Inc. We have in Q1, we have opportunities created for 100, close 120, and close lost 230. And so again, if we plug these numbers into the formula that we just seen, we are getting a win rate of 34.3%, which obviously without context doesn't mean anything. It's a pretty good figure probably, or maybe not, depending on what's the target, what's the benchmark of the company. But that's just to give you an idea on how to reason and think about when we talk about one of the most popular sales metrics out there. Let's move on to the next one, which is the average deal size. I think this one is pretty simple. You can think of a software company that potentially has some different deal sizes. Maybe he has a massive size of deal with a big client, maybe because it's spread over so many different years, and maybe they offer a discounted and very low price to maybe a small company just because they don't have the same budget of the big one. And so what you may want to do here is calculating what's the average deal size. So total revenue from all the close won deals over the total number of close won deals. And so again, if I give you a simple example here, let's say that the Cloud Tech sales team closed 50 deals in Q1, and let's say that the total revenue from these 50 deals was $250,000, then we can definitely calculate what's the average deal size by doing 250K over 50, and 5K is the average deal size in this case. Okay, let's move on to the sales cycle length. Again, super interesting and popular metric for the sales team, for the sales department. So what's the formula here? The formula is total number of days to close all deals and total number of closed deals. So here you can think that for every opportunity, every deal the sales team is working with, you will have an opportunity creation date, which is basically, the date of the first point of contact with the potential customer. The opportunity close date is when we close the deal. Either we win it or we lose it. And then obviously we have the deal status. So is it still open? Did we actually close it? A practical example may make it easy to understand. So let's say that we have deals with company A, B, C, and D. This is when we started talking with these customers here. So these are the creation dates for the opportunities. And in this case, I'm just getting all the close won date. So these are all deals that we closed. So perfect, we won all of them. And this is the won date. And obviously you can calculate how many days it took the sales team to close these deals. And so we have all of these days here. And so what we can do is simply applying the formula. So we sum the deal duration. So in total, we have 144 days. We have 4 close won deals that we are considering. And so on average, we can say that it took 36 days for the sales team to actually win the deal. And it's precisely the idea of the sales cycle length. And so again, hopefully this gave you a very practical understanding on how to use sales data, again, some terminologies that are common in the world of sales, and also some very popular metrics that you will see in most businesses out there. Now, let me scroll to the next section that I wanted to cover. That is another department that you will see in pretty much all companies out there, which is marketing. So first of all, again, we start by saying, why are we even talking about marketing? Why is that important as a business area? Obviously, a company would like to advertise their product or service to the public, and so they will run campaigns. And obviously, super important to track how effectively campaigns attract and convert customers, showing if the money that are spent, because obviously there is money that needs to be spent for running marketing. We want to understand if the money that is spent spent brings real results. And so how do we do this? Like, what are the metrics that we can work on within marketing? First of all, we have what is called the CAC by channel. So CAC here stands for customer acquisition cost. And this is the total cost a business incurs to acquire a new customer. The formula is very simple. You can actually apply the formula for a specific channel. And so first of all, you have to calculate the total marketing and sales spend for that specific channel over the number of new customers acquired from that channel. And so here we have data on cost, which is the numerator, and data on customers, which is the denominator. Again, easier to see a practical example here. Here we are talking about 3 channels. We have Google Ads, because obviously a company might run ads on different platforms. So Google, LinkedIn, and maybe some content marketing like a blog or SEO. Here we collected data for the 3 channels, and also from the marketing tools like Google Analytics or LinkedIn Analytics, we can see how many customers we are getting from all of these channels. And so what we simply do is doing the cost for that channel over the amount of customers that we get from that specific channel. And basically we can understand what is the cost of acquisition for a specific customer by channel. And so if we do then the comparison between these 3, it seems that content marketing is the most effective one, because it costs us $100 to get 1 customer. Whereas, for example, in LinkedIn, that is double. We have to spend $200 to get 1 customer. Let's go to the next one, which is the MQL volume. So again, MQL is a term that is specific for the marketing department, and it actually stands for marketing qualified lead. So here, just to give you a clear explanation, a lead is any person who has shown some interest in the product or service. The marketing qualified lead is a lead that has been deemed more likely to become a customer based on specific criteria. So it depends on what the company criteria are set by the marketing team. And also here in marketing, usually we calculate the conversion rate between MQL and SQL. And so here we introduce a new acronym for marketing, which is sales qualified lead, which is basically a MQL that the sales team has reviewed and accepted as a genuine sales ready opportunity. And the conversion rate is a simple formula: number of SQLs over number of MQLs. So again, just to give you a bit of a practical example here, we have data for Q1 and Q2. We have MQL volume. So for example, in Q1, we have 500 MQLs. We have 150 SQLs. And so the conversion rate is 30%. So what does this mean? It means that we have some people, customers coming from marketing, 500, but only 150 are actually ready for sales. And so there is a 30% conversion, whereas in Q2, we actually have a higher conversion. What does it mean? It means that the quality of people coming from marketing is actually better, because of those leads coming from marketing, we can convert more of them into leads that are ready for sales. So hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea again on terminology that is used by marketing and that a marketing analyst should be very familiar with to bring value into this sort of business. Scrolling down to the next one, we have another one that is super popular, super common, is the ROAS, which stands for return on ad spend. A higher ROAS, I think, is straightforward. If you have a good return on ad spend, it means that your campaign is highly profitable. For a lower ROAS, it means that your campaign is inefficient or losing money. And so the formula is very simple. You have revenue attributable to ads over the cost of ads. And so again, if we do a very, very simple example here, we have this company that ran a Google Ads campaign for the search term best fitness smartwatch. They spent in March $10,000 on this campaign. And if they check the Google Analytics report, basically the report shows that this campaign only generated $55,000 in online sales in March. And so obviously a marketing analyst, what would do is calculating the ROAS. And so 55,000 for revenues over the 10,000 spent on the ad. And the ROAS here would be 5.5. So what does it mean? It means that for every dollar spent on this specific campaign, this specific ad, they will get $5.5 in return. So again, without context, it doesn't mean anything. But obviously you can then take the ROAS of one campaign, and comparing it to another campaign and make a sort of comparison and see which one is better. And so hopefully this made it clear on some marketing metrics, that some popular ones that are used within the marketing department by the marketing team, and therefore also super useful for a data analyst or a marketing analyst to get familiar with, to really bring value into the business. Now, let me scroll up, and then I want to cover the last department that I consider super important and actually very interesting as well, which is the product department. And here, obviously, we're going to talk about product metrics. So product metrics, simply put, they reveal how users interact with a product, helping teams to improve the quality, usability, and retention. Here, when we're talking about product, is usually a software or an app or a game. So here we're talking about a bit of a digital business, which obviously in today's context is super popular. And so if we have some product metrics, some product analytics, obviously we can create a system of measurement. And instead of like creating a random product and different random features, we can actually have a guided evidence-based journey into improving and creating an app or service overall. And so if we go again into an example of a product metric, one popular one is activation to first value. So activation rate is a number of new users who achieved first value over the total number of new signups. So here, obviously, first of all, we have to gather the data. So we have some product analytics tools that usually are tracking the behavior, people and clicks of people into the app. And usually that data is stored in a data warehouse. And here I can use the example of Asana, which is a common project management tool. And so first of all, we have to define what is the first value. So first value in a project management tool is, for example, creating a task or inviting a team member or assigning a task. So basically, we want a user ideally to do one of these three actions in their first 7 days using the product. So that's how we define first value. And then obviously we have to track the data. So, we're going to add some tracking with some tools like Mixpanel or Segment into these specific tasks or actions that we want to track. And then we calculate the activation rate for a week. So for example, we can see, okay, we have 1,000 new signups for the product. And then the users who completed the first value are actually 350. And so we have 350 over 1,000 is 35% is the activation rate. So interesting metric to look at when we consider the product analytics type of field. Then let's go to the next one. We have D1, D7, and D30 retention. So basically here we're talking about the retention rate, which is the number of active users on day N, depending on which kind of day we want to measure, over the number of new users on day 0. So again, we are getting the data with the same methodology. And if we do a practical example with this company called Streamflix, let's say that on Monday, October 1st, which is our day 0, we have 1,000 new users. Maybe in D1, out of the 1,000 signups, only 400 people return and watch at least one video in the platform. Maybe on D7, out of the 1,000 Monday signups, so we are taking this cohort precisely, so we are only measuring these 1,000 people, only 250 return to the platform. And maybe after 30 days, we only have 150. And so we can calculate the D1, D7, and D30 retention, doing this simple calculation over the total amount of people that we are tracking. And here are the three retention rate for the 3 periods. Again, we have to understand, okay, are these number good? Are these not good? Compare it with maybe another feature of the platform, comparing with maybe other periods, and make obviously some good business decisions based on this. Let's go to the next one, which is the feature adoption rate. So here for context, we want to measure the adoption rate maybe for a new feature that we just launched. So, you can think of, okay, the product team launching a new feature and understanding, okay, is this feature actually adopted? Is it a successful feature or not really? And so the way to do this is calculating, for example, the number of active users of a feature over the total number of active users. So again, we use our product analytics platform. And then, for example, if you use Slack as an example, the goal might be to calculate the monthly adoption rate for Huddles, which is a new feature, like a more recent feature for Slack for the month of October. So the key action that we want to track is join a Huddle event that we start to track in the product. And then we get the data from our analytics tools. As I said, it can be amplitude, it can be segment, different sort of applications here to track events used by different companies. The total monthly active users, which is MAU, which is actually another product metric, is 10 million. And so we say, okay, 2.5 million over 10 million used this huddle. And so this is the adoption rate for this feature. 25%. Again, we can compare it to, for example, other features of the product to understand, okay, is this actually feature of the product that is pretty used, or maybe the adoption rate is very low. And so maybe we have to push people to use it because maybe they haven't discovered it yet. And so, you can already start thinking a lot about, okay, what are the consequences of this metric, what we can do, the recommendation that we can give to make it better. Then something that actually I already mentioned briefly is the ratio between weekly active users and monthly active users. So this is simply like the division of these two figures. And the simple example here using social app is to gather the data. So, monthly active users are, for example, 100,000 for the month of December. And then we have a specific week within that month. Let's say we want to see the Christmas week, what's happening in the Christmas week specifically. Let's say that we have 60,000 unique active users for that specific week. And obviously we can say here we have 60%, which means that the Christmas week accounted for 60% of our active users for the month of December. Again, an interesting insight or interesting analysis that the product team might run for the business. And so as you can see here from this mind map, we cover a lot of ground. It will be actually super interesting to know in the comments, well, if you reach this point of the video, what are the area of the business that you're most interested in? Maybe you understood, or based on this conversation, that maybe some of these metrics or departments are more interesting for you. So yeah, it would be super cool to see in the comments. And obviously we cover a lot of technical terms for different areas. So definitely don't feel overwhelmed by this. I just wanted to give you a bit of a comprehensive, holistic view of different metrics that you can work on in the business. And so hopefully this was helpful to have a bit of a high level view of everything that is happening in the world of business metrics and domain knowledge as well. And there you have it, a simple video on business metrics and domain knowledge in the realm of data analytics and how I would work with these metrics on a day-to-day in a specific domain that you might be interested in. If you found at least one useful information in this video, make sure to like and subscribe so that I can help you even further in the next ones. And I will also leave here in the screen some other videos that you might want to check out. This includes a very practical tutorial that I made on SQL and also one that I made on Python. And we'll enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao for now and see you in the next one.